starting on with you. Okay, we'll start with the back. All right, we'll go live on Facebook. All right, live on the Facebook. We're going to start recording on the mixer in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast, where it is our mission to debunk the lies of the enemy and announce freedom to those still lost in the darkness and addiction.
That's it. I'm changing the intro. Welcome to another edition of Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast. I am your host, John Gallagher, the infamous Brother Phoenix, and I'm sitting right next to Palmer, the K-Swiss killer.
You could do whatever you want. Change it. I don't care. I got fired from this podcast. What am I even doing here?
Don't get in your feelings.
Why am I here today? Where is Stacy?
Listen, I know.
Didn't you hire Stacy?
I know a therapist.
Where is Stacy?
I do know a therapist. I can probably get you an appointment.
We're going to need to talk.
Okay.
You know what? We should do a whole podcast about why I got fired and how my feelings are hurt and how she can help me.
Joke's on you. This is intervention time. This is why we invited you here.
Thank you, Jesus. Both podcasts coming together to explain to me why I got fired and what I am doing here today. I could be doing 472 other things, and yet here I am with you three people.
Well, now that you mentioned two other people that are here, we are joined today by the Unashamed Recovery Podcast crew, Josh Hollingshead.
Jonah.
Well, there's a inside story.
We're gonna
about
need
that.
to hear
Well,
that
we might tell it. And Drew Smith. Welcome,
up,
guys. Welcome to the Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast. So happy to have you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
And I guess Palmer.
I'm not a part of Black Sheep. I'm just here as part of the Unashamed crew.
You're here because we felt sorry for you.
You ain't got to feel
I'm
sorry
just kidding.
for
Listen,
me.
let me just clarify something right now. I love Palmer with all of my heart and soul. He is my brother, and although I had to fire him, and as bad as it hurt me, I don't regret it. Not
Don't
even for a
regret it.
second.
Not even a
No.
minute.
Those are jokes. I mean, Palmer, I just want to clear this up real quick. Palmer did not get fired, for those that were wondering. It's just that Palmer is a very important man.
Not important. I'm very busy.
He is a very busy, important man. He has a full-time ministry of his own called Giving Grace. They do praise and worship at several events in several churches. He's also on staff.
I'm trying to go on tour, so I don't have to do any of this anymore.
Yeah, he will certainly clear his schedule for that. But that's what those are his goals that he's working for. He's he's on staff over the point.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look.
I'm done.
As we talked about the other day, we should have done a video about it because many people have messaged me asking, "Did you get fired? Why aren't you on Black Sheep?" There's times where I've missed a couple Unashamed. Why aren't you on Unashamed?
3.
Here's the thing. So with Black Sheep, my role was always meant to be as a starter. I was always going to be here for just you to have a sounding board and get your feet wet. John felt like for whatever reason, I feel like you felt like you couldn't do it by yourself out the gate. And so I was here to help facilitate that.
Yeah,
That's it. And then when Stacy came along, she really y'all really realized that is the dynamic that this show needed. And so with my schedule being so busy and me having to miss a couple episodes when I was sick too, it just worked out that Stacy came along. She was a great fit, and when she can't be here like today, I'm happy to step in.
And perfectly very well said. And what you did from first episode and then every episode was I got comfortable. Yeah, I got comfortable doing this, and I ended up doing a couple episodes on my own that worked out very well. So I found my comfort zone, and like you said, when Stacy can't record, you're always available when we need you. And let me tell you something: you will always be a Black Sheep. You will always be my brother, and I love you from the bottom of my heart. And I can't imagine what it would take for you, whatever it would be for you to do to actually get fired from all of that. But whatever it is, don't do it.
I'll start working on that.
Putting
list.
stuff on T-shirts.
On the flip side, he did get fired from Unashamed Recovery.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
So,
now,
do you
now
want
that's
to tell
not
that full story?
That has nothing to do with me.
No, all right. Great.
So let me introduce
I
my
am not
guest.
fired from Unashamed. I've never been fired from Unashamed or Black Sheep. Thank you very much.
He wasn't fired. He was let go.
I was let go. I was asked to resign. I was not fired. I was asked to put in my resignation, and I fully obliged.
Right. So welcome Unashamed Recovery to the podcast, man. Josh Hollingshead, Drew Smith, you guys were with me from the beginning of all of this, man. If it hadn't been for you guys, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Hey, man, we are grateful to have just a small part of it, man.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, glory to God, obviously. But man, let me tell you, had that meeting never taken place, none of this would have been possible.
Well,
so I just want to say thank you.
And all of that came from Night of Hope.
Yes. And Eddie Poole. Yeah. All of that came from prison and 32 years of rebellion from the Lord.
Eddie Poole, the busiest man in
Yeah.
recovery.
Definitely that. He's
You're
definitely
going to
that.
say show's business.
Well, while we're on the subject of Eddie Poole, don't forget that this Saturday night at Trinity Wesleyan Church on Sidewell Road in Byram is Night of Hope.
And what's the date for this Saturday night? Because people
February
are not listening
10th.
to it right now.
February 10th.
All right, good. February 10th. What time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock
Sure.
in Byron.
In Byram.
At TWC.
I know that Danny.
We love those
I know that
Is
Danny
that the one
Ivy.
we went to?
No.
Trinity Wesleyan?
Which one did we go to? U-turn?
Y'all went to the new Hope Fellowship, and
Yeah,
well,
but
you weren't there.
you weren't there.
No, you went to Hope Fellowship.
Which one are you talking about?
We
Yeah.
went to one that was down in either McGee or Collins.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
it
that
was
was,
Night of Hope.
overflow.
Yeah, that was for-
overflow.
That's
and
what
then,
it was.
you're talking about U-turn.
Yeah.
Not
U-turn.
a Hope at U-turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that wasn't Not a Hope. That was their own. That was a church's.
Okay.
They were putting it on their own.
Gotcha.
That had nothing to do with Eddie.
so we hope to see all of you there. I know Danny Ivy will be speaking that night. Black Sheep will be there with a table. Casey, I can't let me see if I get her name right. Casey Jean. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get your last name right, but she's the female speaker that night. I apologize for jacking up your last name. I do apologize. But from what I understand, I've never
It's a
even heard it,
podcast,
but she's got
man.
a very powerful testimony. And I know Danny does because we literally just had a conversation with him.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyway, that's
Wasn't
a
a part of
future
that
episode of
conversation.
Unashamed that
I'll
y'all are
check
gonna
that
have to
out.
catch. And let's get to the meat of this program. So we're gonna talk to Josh and Drew, and we're gonna get into Josh's testimony and how he birthed the idea for an Unashamed Recovery podcast. But first, I want to back up into your test. Tell me, Josh, what does chapter 1? What if
The tables have turned.
what is chapter 1? What is it? What's the title of chapter 1?
Hold on. First, let me clarify. The reason we're only doing Josh's testimony today is because we don't have 3 episodes to do Drew's testimony.
Look, I have
That
fixed
was a
my
mini-series.
I have fixed that issue, okay? I have stopped talking about like the detailed craziness, and I've I had it marginalized.
Yeah.
From where it was. It was extensive as far as what I was talking about.
Right.
Well,
I was
welcome
very
to the Black
passionate
Sheep
about
What is the
podcast, and we would
title
like to know
of
what
chapter
title
1?
chapter 1
Now
of
that I'm on
Josh's-
this side of that, it is on the spot putting you.
Oh,
asking
you
that
think?
question. Chapter 1 would be the chains of addiction. Because that's what it was.
Did you bring those?
I did not.
I'm surprised.
If I would have thought about it, I would have. But I didn't think about it.
Just rattle them around real
Just
quick.
rattle them. But that's what it was. It was the chains of addiction. My story starts when I was about 6 years old, and I was introduced to a Playmate car air freshener that was on the rearview mirror of my grandfather's paperwood truck. And
I don't think you could say Playmate and do this at the same time. Just saying.
I mean,
Wah, wah.
I mean, when he said mine started at 6 years old, being introduced to, I thought he was going to say boobs.
Now that you mention it.
I was saying that's what he did.
I was doing the shape of the pine tree
Ah,
air
Oh.
freshener.
Okay. Whew. Don't worry, I'll edit
Need to
all
work on
this
your
part out.
hand calligraphy.
Not off the live though.
But
I feel like I'm on an episode of John Boy and Billy.
But they everybody likes to think when I say that, oh, your grandfather must have been a bad man. Bad man introduced his grandson to pornography, and that wasn't the case. My grandfather was and is a great man. Me and him have a great relationship, and that wasn't the case at all. It was just a product of that era. And he didn't see anything.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, man. Back in that day, it wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah. I mean, it just wasn't.
Right.
Maybe it should have been, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just, used to when I would tell the story, it was almost kind of was just like your pathway to becoming a man.
Passage.
Yeah, you write a passage.
Yep.
And back then, porn is not what it is today.
Right.
Nah.
It's
Back then,
not.
Can I share something?
Although,
real quick?
hold on.
Yeah.
Back then, it was. We shouldn't look at it like this, but this is how they presented it. Back then, it was classy. Even if you go back and you look at the story of Playboy and Hugh Hefner, he originally started out with a very classy product. Yes, there was nudity, but it was presented in a classy way in those days. Yeah. Not like porn is presented today.
All right.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when it happened for me, because that's something I've struggled with throughout my entire life, right? When it happened for me, it was literally just before the alcohol and drugs for me, really. It's probably the first thing that was, I stumbled upon my uncle's trunk o' porn. And back then,
Trunk o' porn.
Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer from the 80s and 90s. So like back then, it was a lot of VHS tapes and a lot of magazines that were not Playboy or classy.
What's a VHS tape? I'm just kidding.
Man. All right.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this.
So a
that
VHS
say that,
tape.
Pretty much.
All right, so a VHS tape is a tape. I'm literally going to. It's a rectangular shape. All right,
Don't do handshakes.
Don't do it like this. It's like. But anyway, you literally, this is before the digital age, and it was literally like tape. That you would put in the VCR and it would play a movie, and you couldn't just skip to any scene or anything like that. You literally had to be kind and rewind.
Yeah,
and so. Anyway, that's for another episode, man. I'm getting a history lesson. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Anyway, so for me, it was
I forgot which podcast
it was a
we're on. I'm
gigantic
sorry.
trunk of porn, and I would literally, from the first time finding it, and thereafter I would find myself going back to it, and wait until he would go to sleep, and I would sneak into it, and I would steal a magazine or something, or tape or whatever, and that's where that began for me.
Yeah. And, and just like with yours and with mine, that one encounter, the chains of addiction were set.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always like to use this illustration. I didn't go and have a rock bottom experience from that first encounter. I didn't go to jail. I didn't go to prison. I didn't lose anything. Nothing changed in my life. Not a thing. But that's the thing with addiction. The chains of addiction are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken.
Well, something immediately changed for me, and
put that on a T-shirt.
Something immediately changed for me from that moment, though. For me, I started looking at women differently. Learning later in life that pornography gives you an unexpected expectation of a sexual relationship with a female.
Dude, I was just thinking that. Sorry, I was just thinking about how back in the day when there was magazines and stuff like that, they used to have these columns, and I think in your testimony you talk about how and I know I'm jumping ahead, but in your testimony you talk about how because your wife wasn't doing certain things, you didn't feel like she loved you because we had a distorted version of what intimacy was in our heads by reading these columns of how things started and what she did for or watching these videos where what she was doing for her husband on these pictures and these videos, man. It gave us all a distorted view of what sex
and what love looks like.
What sex was.
Well, see, for me, and it was no different for me because I was 6, so I didn't know what. Right. I mean, for me, it was like boobies.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm still like that.
So it's kind of like, for me, there was no altered perception
my
of.
Wife walks out, I'm just saying.
For me, there was no altered perception of how I would look at women because, I mean, I was 6.
Right.
So there was not much of a difference. But, that whole encounter, not much happened until the next encounter. And that was, I had a friend at school who had an actual Playboy. He had stole from his uncle's truckload porn here. Y'all may have had the same uncle.
That's possible. My uncle got around like a lot. He was a
God.
male man.
But he had got that, and I bought it off of him for a Snickers bar.
Really?
Yeah.
And that thing was the holy grail.
I got you.
I think I protected that. It was a lingerie edition. That was gold. And then the same friend, I got a VHS from him a couple years later.
Oh, you got you a whole new dealer now.
Got a
What'd that cost you? Like 2 Twix or 2?
Actually, he gave that to me on the house.
Oh, that's how they get you.
Yeah,
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you,
so,
man.
Yeah, that's how them drug dealers get you.
And it just,
First one's free.
First one's free.
And it continued like that. Small little things just spread across years. So small that when you looked at it individually, really nothing stood out because they're just these small little occurrences. And it just kept on like that. And then when I got in high school, we got dial-up internet. And
Oh, yeah.
sound like robots dying. And of course,
I remember.
of course, with
Being
that,
invaded.
Right.
found some online stuff. But even back then, this was way
LimeWire.
back in the early 2000s. There wasn't much hardcore stuff on the internet. It was still mostly just these models posing.
Yeah.
And so I was still in this very early stages of this, what I reckon you would call it softcore pornography.
Yeah.
And then I started finding, okay, VHS, the rentals, when you had to go get your rental from the store, I realized they had an adult section. Well, go behind the curtain and have all this stuff. And I started finding those, and those kind of introduced me to this more hardcore stuff then. And I was in high school. I wasn't an adult. And then we're going to fast forward because it's really all just stuff like that. But really where my story really took a turn was my sophomore year of high school. I went to youth camp, and I had this extraordinary experience with God. And I felt this call for ministry, and it terrified me. It scared the crap out of me. I was like, man, there's no way that I can do this with what I struggle with. There's no way. I was like, I can't lead people to Christ with this. And so when I came back home from youth camp, I ran from God. I ran from God just like Jonah. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Is that why he called you Jonah?
That's
he
exactly
called
why
me
he calls him
Jonah.
Jonah.
Yeah.
Jonah Hollingshead.
All right.
And
Learn something new every day.
I originally said I didn't have a well experience, but Brother Phoenix really pointed out that, well, I did have a well experience. And that well was porn. It swallowed me up. But I ran from God, and I basically ran to the first girl that would have anything to do with me. And I immediately had extracurricular activities with her. Immediately. Sophomore in high school. And that right there was where where it was the one thing split into two. My porn addiction, and I was hooked. Man, this was awesome.
Wow.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
speechless, bro.
It's still awesome. It's just you got to be married, people.
Yeah, here's the thing. I love how Palmer put it one time, man. He's like, I'm still a sex addict.
I am still a sex addict.
I live with my dealer.
I live with my dealer.
Legally.
I am married to my wife, and thank God she still, after 14 years, has sex with me, and it's good because I'm still addicted to her. So if she walks out, like I just said, when you're all like, boobies, when my wife walks out the shower or whatever, I'm just like, boobies.
Yeah, and let me tell you, a guy like me, it's really hard because, I've been single for 6 years. So I've been celibate for 6 years, man. So, it's yeah, y'all are married. That's cool. Y'all got y'all's dealers, but
We're trying to
let
get
me ask
you
y'all something. I mean, I know we are, but what do guys, what do guys that don't have that dealer living with them, their wives, tell us how to deal with that. Teach us.
Well, I mean, first of all, that's extremely hard once you've already had that experience.
Yes.
If you've already been having sex and then decide, okay, I'm going to go completely celibate because that's what the Bible tells me. I'm not supposed to be having sex with anybody other than my wife, and I'm not married. it's extremely hard to go back.
Yeah, and I could put that in perspective for you if you're a drug addict, because if you're, if you've tried heroin,
but if we're living by faith, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I still would say that it's still hard.
It's very hard.
There's always
right, because
there's
you've already
always a
done
temptation, but at the same time, though, like if you're putting your faith in God, then you're waiting for somebody that He's going to bring along.
Right.
Sure.
And you're focused on that. You're not really focused on the worldly.
Right.
At that point.
And that is the key, is that you have to be more focused on God than your addiction, no matter what.
Basically, what you're saying is seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all those things will be added unto you.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
I wasn't really asking for me. I was asking for the
I'm
guy.
just going to go ahead and tell you, man. This
Actually, I'm not lying. I mean, I'm really lying. I'm asking for me because, dude, I've been single for 6 years, man. I'm ready to meet my wife. I ain't even playing.
Ask for a helpmate.
Yeah.
here's the thing though. This struggle is a beast, and I don't know of anybody that can do it without Christ.
And I can tell you this too, man. And this is true facts right here. All right, so I've been clean and sober for 3 years. All right, 3 years. I've been off of every drug, every chemical known to man. Okay. And the only thing that the enemy has been able to assault me with is lust, because he knows that God delivered me from all that other stuff.
Right.
So every time I turn around, it's right there. It's like when I'm scrolling through my Christian TikTok, there's always one that gets slipped in there, in the social media.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All my stuff in social media is Christian related or faith-based recovery related, all that. But there's always, it'll get in, enemy knows what he's doing. He'll slip one in there,
But that's what I've always said, though. The enemy will always take something that's good and then try to pervert it some kind of way. He will always try to make it disgusting.
So what do? We got to protect our minds, right? Yeah. We got to capture those thoughts and you got to cast them out.
As a man thinks, and so he.
It doesn't help that the most beautiful thing God ever created was a woman.
I know, right?
Just saying.
That's the biggest arsenal in his weapons, man. It's like not everybody's a drug addict. Not everybody is an alcoholic. There are people on this planet that have never gone through that experience like I have or like Drew has. But every man on this planet deals with lust.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. I go back to my grandfather. I didn't have anything with alcohol or drugs or nicotine like that. I've done those things, but it wasn't really that wasn't my bag.
That wasn't what captivated you. Right.
My grandfather, he chewed tobacco. I've seen him drink a few times. So that wasn't that what I could pick that up from him.
Right.
I didn't. I picked up that one thing. That's what my thing was. And yeah. And
is that still a Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Josh picked up a Christmas tree.
Yeah, picked up a Christmas tree. But my point is, we all have these different struggles that we struggle with. And it just so happened that this is the one, and the enemy saw fit to get me attached to this thing early.
Yeah, look, don't think that don't happen to women too, because I talked to a woman the other day, and I'm not going to mention her name because she may not. She wants to literally come on the show and talk about it. But she was she had no idea that this was a lustful thing, but she was addicted to romance novels. She literally had
read one of those things.
Yeah, I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost like Penthouse Forum.
Yeah,
for real.
It gives, and you get to paint your own picture at that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like,
My goodness.
yeah.
So women, stop reading those, man.
Yeah. Anyway, back to your testimony. I apologize, Josh.
It's all good.
We never know how these things are going to work out.
It's all
you know
good.
what I'm saying?
This is your show. But
Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I was about to
that
say,
on a t-shirt.
and don't you? And I looked at Palmer and said, "Don't you forget it."
That's right. It's your show.
Hey, see, this is the thing though. He's gonna get me back if I ever join the band. He's gonna fire me after. He's gonna fire me after.
No. You said if. You can go ahead and take that off your list.
Yeah. I know, man.
Podcasting is your thing.
Yeah. All right, Josh.
So, Josh, let's fast forward. I know a little bit about your story.
You should, sir. You should.
Yeah. So
I don't know
let's
anything
fast
about it.
forward. Let's
Hang
get
on.
to
I know
let's
what
get
I
to
want.
Annabeth.
Hold on.
kidding,
I don't want to get to Annabeth yet. Were you already a prison guard by the time you met? Okay, I want to hear about your time in Greene County.
Well, now we're way away from that. You
Okay.
want you want to jump that much?
No.
Okay.
No. I just don't. I want to make sure I hit that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you married when you were a prison guard?
No.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't even know he was a prison guard until today. So, learning new things.
Yeah, I want to hear about some head thumping from Jonah Hollingshead. Man, that's what I want to hear.
Get back.
We're gonna get you a T-shirt that says Jonah Hollingshead.
the head thumper.
It's gonna be a literal.
like Christmas
It's gonna be a
trees.
literal cartoon version of Josh being swallowed by a whale or riding it like a surfboard.
Hey, I wear it.
I know you will.
I wear it on every episode.
Unashamed.
This
Anyway,
is
I'm sorry.
mine. This is
Oh
mine.
man.
Put that on a shirt.
That's right.
Sorry,
But-
I'm starting my own podcast, Unfiltered with Palmer.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Put that on a T-shirt.
So what were you about to ask me? You were
I said we should go ahead and jump to
Annabeth.
jump to when we meet Annabeth and
Yeah.
start from there.
yeah. So I got,
Because honestly, your addiction
yeah.
didn't really affect your life. I mean, yes, you're having sexual relations with girls before you're married. And so yes, that's a bad thing, but your addiction really doesn't affect your life until you're married or until you meet your wife.
Yeah.
Well, you're the quote unquote rock bottom doesn't happen.
Yeah,
until
exactly.
then.
And so I went to college, and my roommate, he introduced me to my wife, and
high-speed internet.
and high speed internet. Up to that point, I did not know what high speed internet was.
Yeah, he lived in the sticks.
I was raised in the sticks, in the boonies.
If you couldn't hear it in his voice.
This voice is the product of cornbread.
Cornbread.
But
Put that on a T-shirt.
You what? I tell you what?
but yeah, so I met my now wife back then, and we dated for a long time. But I don't tell this often because I don't like painting this picture because I don't want to put any kind of blame whatsoever on her because she had nothing to do with this. But it didn't help with the fact of when we started dating, I told her, "Hey, this is what I do," and she was like, "Okay."
Well,
So she
let's
was good with it.
I'm probably not
I
good
mean,
with
she-
it.
it
I
didn't-
will say that she's not alone. My wife was the same exact way.
I
When we
think they
first
were willing to overlook.
Yeah, when
I
we
can,
first
yeah,
met,
I
they
can
were
be
so,
honest
you know,
that I was, yeah. I mean,
they were enamored,
yeah.
so they were willing to overlook the red flag or the flaw or whatever
Right.
you want
Yeah.
to call it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, like I had
Well, he's
I
a
had a
dude.
hard
I'm-
drive full of pictures. Look, I was a rock star, quote unquote rock star. So I was requesting pictures from any woman I ever met, right? And I had a hard drive of it.
and now he's a
And
has-been.
about 2 weeks into my wife living with me, she was like, "That needs to go."
Yeah.
You know those women. It's one thing for you to look at,
Somebody
internet
that you'll
you
never
don't
meet.
know.
Yeah.
Exactly. She was like, "You got to get rid of that." So, I mean, I don't think it paints a bad picture of Annabeth. She just didn't know any better.
I just wanted to put that because
Yeah.
when I tell this story, like, there's some ways people are like, I mean, like, no,
Yeah, if you get a bad thought about Annabeth and after hearing Josh's story, then you've misheard something because
yeah,
big time.
the fact that your wife, and I know we're skipping ahead, but the fact that your wife goes through everything that she went through with you and still stayed,
Yeah.
and is still there as of today, man, it just proves that she is absolute sainthood
Oh, yeah.
when she makes
well,
when
she
makes it to heaven.
accepted that character defect or flaw because she loved him, right? Was it in a roundabout way.
A little bit like
that's
that.
to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah, she,
All right,
ain't-
so
she ain't killed me yet, so.
That's
All right.
yet.
But anyway, we're gonna fast forward. We dated for a while, and there was a bunch of stuff. But during that time while we were dating, I got into the oil field, got laid off, and got on working at the prison back home down in Greene County. And man, that's a whole nother world.
I'm tired, boss.
Yeah.
That is a whole
State
nother
of
world.
Mississippi don't care nothing about you being tired.
And the thing
Boy.
about that, inmates really don't like when you go through the zone quoting that.
Tell me, look, let me ask you something. Okay. So
no, this is not your show. You can't ask nothing.
I've heard some horror stories about Greene County. Can you share something? Like,
Can you confirm or deny?
Well,
did you ever have to literally thump somebody, or
so I don't want to go into too much because there is some stuff that I did do there that I am not proud of.
I mean, I'm sure you had to. Yeah, no choice.
Yeah. And then there was some things where just, but yes, like
Your anger got the best of you.
there is some, like, I don't see how Christians can walk in that faith and be a prison guard.
Yeah, I can see that.
That'd be tough.
I know several that do it, and I don't know how they do it. Like, when I tell you that was, I was there for 5 years, and man, it's a whole nother world.
You seen some stuff
In 5 years, yeah,
man.
and I don't.
It's like going to war every day.
The mindset that you got to be in to do it, and it's just, for people that's actually incarcerated there, and for the people that are working there, man, it's just I don't wish it on nobody. Like,
I understand.
If you're considering a correct job with the Mississippi Department of Corrections, find something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Or how about this? How about Mississippi? Straighten it up. Get better.
Well, and I think it's just, I don't think it's that. I think it's just it's prison.
Yeah.
I think it's the nature of prison. But anyway, it didn't help.
Some time there.
It did not help my addiction any by working there, because
It
in the
probably made it
stressed
worse.
environment,
Yeah.
man, my sex addiction took off.
Yeah.
I really stopped with the porn during that time, but my sex addiction really took off because you got all female guards and
Yeah. So work stress was a big trigger for you.
oh yeah, major.
Did you have any anger issues at this time in your life?
So I probably
Did you say had?
So back then, I know I did, but I was not at a place in my life.
Of admitting.
Well, not really admitting it, but just seeing it.
Yeah.
Because that was so far under my radar. But yeah, my anger issues didn't come out until I was a parent. That's just flat out.
Okay.
Parenthood brought mine.
Oh no, I
like to tell people.
I was an angry kid.
I like to tell people.
I've been angry a long time.
Yeah.
I like to tell people I was actually a really nice person before I had kids.
Yeah. I can't imagine you being any other way. But so is this where it really kind of started to fall apart for you and Annabeth?
No,
No?
not
Okay.
at all. So we got married in 2012. And what was so funny about that is I tell people I always have thought that, even as a kid when I was struggling with this, I always thought that once I got married, I would no longer need this. That I'd just be able to quit it, be done with it, because I'm married.
Porn part.
Yeah, the porn part.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. I was dependent on it more.
Yeah.
And then 2014, we had my first daughter. And I was like, okay. I'd always thought when I had kids, I would no longer have time for it. I can give it up. That wasn't the case. I was dependent on it more and more and more. And at this time, I had done taking a new job, and that job allowed me to be on my phone most of the day. And I was looking at porn about 10 hours a day, just mindlessly scrolling on my phone, just image after image, video after video, page after page, just scrolling, looking at this unfiltered filth. And I always like to say I was trying to get my next high. Like, that's what it was. I was trying to get that next
release of endorphins.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it had gotten to where it was no longer pleasurable. That I was not doing it for pleasure. I was doing it because I had to. It was compulsion. It was there for a while. It was work.
So you often say that you don't know what it's like to be a drug addict. Typically,
That's exactly what it's like to be a drug addict.
That's exactly
That
what
is
it
exactly what it's like to be a drug addict, Josh. Truly is. I mean,
So
you build up a tolerance.
Your
and
drug
then all
of
of a
choice.
sudden, this ain't working. I need more.
Seriously.
Then that more doesn't become fun, and then so now you're exacerbating every avenue you
He
can.
said exacerbating.
I said exacerbating.
While
not the
he
other
did
word.
this.
Yeah.
I was making a circle. You didn't let me finish my circle.
This is a Christian podcast.
It truly is.
Y'all are making it nasty. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Like,
You're the
You're the one that said exacerbation.
anyway. But no, Josh, for real though, like that is
I'm
you
sorry
are
for my
literally
lack of use of
describing.
big words.
You are literally describing what it is like to be a heroin addict. I mean, so to speak, because like you ultimately have to do more to get high. Eventually, you can't even get high. It turns into work,
a job,
and the work that it goes into to come up with the money to go get the drugs to get high. Yeah. I mean, it's the same boat, bro.
Yeah, and I mean, can I share something that I have never shared publicly?
Absolutely.
And all the testimonies that I've given,
maybe
I have never shared this.
Is it going to hurt Palmer's feelings?
Probably.
Yes.
Okay.
Without
then
doubt.
please do.
Without a doubt. So during that time, and this is going to get just a little bit graphic. I'm going to keep it PG, but it is going to be a little graphic. During that time, when I was just going through that, masturbation was 14, 15 times a day.
Yeah.
And at that level, it's work.
Yeah.
It's not pleasurable. It was exhausting. Pure exhausting.
Brother, it took a lot of courage for you to say that out loud on a podcast. But I'm
going to tell you why. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, but there's somebody out there
that needs to hear that.
That is in the currently going through what I have come out of.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody needs to hear this. Because when I was going through this, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was alone. I thought I was by myself. And that I was the worst human being on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
I thought I was too far gone for God's grace. And if I can keep somebody from feeling like that, it's worth it.
Right.
Well, I'm telling you that there's somebody that is going to hear this, and it's going to change them forever.
That's what I hope. I hope so.
Yeah, there's so many people out there that think that you've done too much, you've gone too far, and I'm here to tell you that we've said it a million times on all of these podcasts that there's no such thing as gone too far or done too much for God not to love you and God not to use you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could have been a serial killer, and you're living in prison for.
You can't get out of the grasp with somebody that's always there and everywhere there.
Exactly.
You made a good point. Have you ever read The Grasp of Grace by, I think it's Max Lucado?
Now, you know I can't read.
Yeah. You did. You are from Louisiana, so you are correct.
That's right.
Audiobooks.
That's right.
But in that book, he talks about grace.
Huh?
And about how we struggle with grace,
Yeah.
how we just cannot grasp this concept. We like to think we do, but we can't. And he was talking about a serial killer. It was the one that was eating people.
Dahmer. Jeffrey.
I want to say it was Dahmer, and I may be wrong on this. But anyway, regardless, that has nothing to do with it. But anyway, when he was in prison, he found Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Dahmer.
Yeah, that's definitely Dahmer.
People struggle with the fact of he found Christ and that all the things that he had done had just been wiped away and that he was going to go to heaven.
He is in heaven.
People struggled with that.
Yeah.
And they're like, this can't be.
Well, the people that struggle with that need to go listen to my homeboy Kelly K, because he explains it perfectly. There is different levels to heaven.
Yeah.
And, you know, you want to, when he was on with us and did the double podcast with us, he said, you know, it's like going to Disney World. You don't want to just get in the gates and just only be having access to the souvenir shops. You want to go ride the rides. Well, that's how heaven's going to be too. Now, we don't know because of the works of Dahmer. We don't know how far into Disney World he's getting.
But still. Because we think, okay, this man did unspeakable acts. He deserves hell.
But don't we all?
We do. But that's the thing that people miss.
Right.
They always try to measure sin. There's no measurement in sin.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Jesus didn't say this is the list of sins in
this
this
one's greater
order.
than this one.
No.
It's
He
all
said
equal.
sin is sin is sin.
And so, the grace aspect of it, and
Well, let me tell you something, Josh, and it's something that I truly do struggle with to this day. Like I said, you know, with all the addiction that I came out of, that is like the biggest weapon that the enemy has against me, and rightfully so said, yes, he uses it all the time, and I still struggle with it. And like my daily,
because you women need to put some clothes on.
I know in my daily walk, man, it's like I get, especially with everything that's going on now, with the podcast and everything like that, and when I go to these events and things like that, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm such a fake in front of these people. It's like because of that lust that I get attacked by.
So what determines you to be a fake?
Nothing. I'm not a fake. I know I'm not a fake.
that's-
I struggle with sin. I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know how the enemy gets in your ear about that. It's like, you still have you still have a lustful eye, man. You're still looking at women the wrong way sometimes. I capture those thoughts now.
Right.
I do. And, but as far as the pornography and things like that, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, I struggle in private. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. And, I try to stay as busy, and I'm probably doing this the wrong way. I try to stay as busy as I possibly can to avoid it, and wear my, kind of like trying to wear myself, so I can just, so I mean, from the time my feet hit the floor until I get home at night, and
You're doing stuff.
yeah, I'm trying to, and I'm turning to the Lord for it. I'm trying to pray it out, but it's like I've been a struggle, in silence, because I don't like talking about it. And Josh just gave me I've talked about it in my CR group,
Right.
to those guys, they know. But for Josh to sit there and do what he just did, then it just gave me the courage to just really just kind of put it out there.
Right.
So thank you for that, Josh.
No problem, man. And that's why we do this.
Yeah.
Is when we're open and honest, it gives others the courage to be open and honest.
Yeah.
And that's when healing happens. Oh. Yeah, so continuing on with my story. My daughter's born, and this is where I find recovery for the very first time in my life. You're good. This is where I find recovery for the very first time in my life is my daughter's born, and we're going to go do family Christmas pictures. Mm-hmm. We're on the way out there, and my wife's like, hey, I need to see your phone for directions because I don't know where we're going. So she gets my phone, and she finds all the saved porn on my phone. And she's like, you can't do this. This ain't happening. And I was like, why is this all of a sudden a problem? So anyway, she's like, I don't care what you have to do. You've got to fix this. So for the first time in my life, I'm like, I don't have a problem. I didn't even know what I had a name. I'd never even heard of a porn addiction. And so I start doing some research, and I find out, yep, that's exactly what this is. And at that time, there was nothing in the area of Meridian, like nothing. And I found a sex addicts group that met here in Jackson. So I came over here, and I attended a few meetings, and I'm like, nope, those guys are weird. I am not one of those weirdos.
They got a problem.
Yes, I was like, they've got a problem, and I do not. Those guys are weird. So I stopped going.
Was it just guys in the group?
Yes, it was a men's group and a women's group.
Oh, okay.
You don't want men and women sex addicts to meet together.
Oh, that's what,
You do not.
that is the worst
Just asking,
possible.
making sure.
I'm talking about
Chicken. Well, I remember us
It's like,
talking about.
you got a problem, I got a problem. We can fix this.
we can solve this problem. Put that on t-shirt.
Well, I remember you telling me,
Let's get married.
like, about how what they would talk about in those meetings, and it was just basically war stories. I mean, you hear that as a sex addict, you're just kind of like, I might go trouble. You just,
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm
they were
saying?
basically reliving this stuff and romanticizing it, and it's like, man, this ain't helping none. Like, what y'all are doing ain't helping me at all.
Yeah.
And so I stopped going. And at this time, our pastor at our church had passed away from his battle with cancer. And we were in a season of having these interim pastors. And for 6 weeks in a row, we had a different pastor. And every single one of them for 6 weeks in a row made mention of Celebrate Recovery because Celebrate Recovery had just restarted at our church. And on that sixth Sunday, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I get it. For 6 Sundays, So the next day I showed up to our Celebrate Recovery. Now, I did not know what I was showing up for, and I did not want to go because this church was my wife's family's church.
Oh, yeah.
This was not my, like, I was only there for them. And I was like, I don't want to go tell these people, but I went. I had no choice. So I walked through the door, and I was just so full of fear, so full of shame. And you know what? I found where I belonged that night. When I walked in, and I've been telling people this for a while, I found the rest of my herd. I always thought I was a black sheep.
That's when we were meeting upstairs, too.
Yes, we were meeting upstairs. I
that.
always thought I was a black sheep. And when I found that group that night, I found the rest of my herd.
When Jesus comes.
And the main thing that I really liked about that group that night was I was able to go in, and we sat in open share, and for the first time ever in my life, I've said out loud the words, I'm a porn addict. Out loud. And just this weight fell off of me. It was the most relieving experience just to be able to say that out loud. And it reinstated the fact of shame loses its power when we share our secrets in safe places.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was able to heal. And I would like to be able to sit here and tell you that from that night on, I was healed. That I was healed, and that I went on to years of successful recovery and sobriety, and everything was just rainbows and pixie dust. But
I think we both disappeared from CR at the same time, or right around the same time.
I dipped out. I was gone.
Well, because you had been healed. You were recovered.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely, Paul.
How long were you in the program?
Well, at that time, just
a month.
Less than a year.
That's all it takes. Don't you know?
30 days.
30 days.
30 days.
90 days to quit a habit.
And that's 28 days.
Oh, whatever.
28 days to quit a habit.
Yeah. So you were healed. You could leave. No problem. If y'all can't hear or see the sarcasm,
Palmer.
I'm just saying, we see this so many times of people going, I've been here, I'm healed, I'm good, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go back into the pit, and I'm going to pull people out.
Yeah, that's not
I have been sober for 30 days.
Let me tell you something.
I've got Jesus and sobriety.
Like, for real, listen.
Sobriety.
When I came out of prison, I had already had about a year of clean time. And drugs were readily available in prison. Everybody knows that. But so it was about 3 months before I came out of prison, before I even walked into a meeting, and I didn't realize just how bad I needed it. And I almost guarantee you that had I not walked into that meeting with Jeff that night to see his testimony, I would have eventually relapsed. Yeah, I know I would have. And I've dedicated myself to Celebrate Recovery. And what I love about Celebrate Recovery is that it's not just for, there's a misconception that it's for drugs and alcohol. No, It is for everything, every hurt, habit, and hang-up. It is for porn addiction, for sex addiction, for anger, for food, greed, envy, jealousy. I mean, it covers
anything
the whole
that you
spectrum.
Can think of,
yes.
It literally covers.
Well, it's in the title, Life's Hurts, Habits, and Hang-Ups.
I need to go for food addiction.
Yeah, I mean...
But, and my problem was I was still trying to do my addiction, and then I was still trying to do recovery.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do both of them. And you can't. You can't entertain both of those. Right. You're going to lose.
You can only serve one master. You're going to either love one and hate the other.
That's right. And so I would just relapse. And eventually I just stopped going altogether, stopped trying. I got a new job. That job, the hours were just horrible. I couldn't make the meeting. I was working at that time. And I started a new job, and I was in training. And I was having to stay in a hotel, and I was away from home. And that sex addiction really just kicked back up.
Yeah.
When I'd lost that job, and when I came back home, I started a new job, and I was working for my local 911 office. And I started this relationship with this girl that I had known from years ago. And very quickly, things got physical. Very quickly. And I remember one night, me and my wife, we were sitting at the table eating supper. I think we was actually at Outback Steakhouse, actually. and we were talking, and just as casually as I could, I was like, I want a divorce. And then I just moved the conversation on like I'd never even mentioned it. But that's where we were at in our relationship. I was so miserable. And
what a jerk. You took her to Outback.
You are so mean.
Just to tell her that you wanted a divorce?
He did it in a crowded restaurant so she couldn't
wouldn't
attack
shoot him.
Yeah.
And, it was at that time, man, I could lay in the bed next to her at night, and I would feel just 1,000 miles away from her. Just felt so distant. And, like you were saying earlier, it was this thing of all the pornography and being this relationship with this girl. It just put up this wall between me and my wife. And because my wife wasn't doing these things that I was seeing that these porn stars doing in these videos and all, I felt like my wife didn't love me. And so I immersed myself more into this pornography, and I was searching for just these dark and perverse and sickening things because I was trying to get that next high because the simple stuff wasn't doing it no more. And this thing had escalated well beyond anything that I ever thought it was going to escalate to. It had gotten to the point where I had taken out a Backpage ad. You know what Backpage is?
Yes.
I had taken out a Backpage ad, and I was offering myself as a male prostitute. That's how far down this hole that I went.
Did you make any money?
I did not.
I'm sorry.
I was the brokest male prostitute on Backpage.
Aside from Palmer.
But
yeah.
with that and with this extra relationship that I was having this affair, and it was just, I was on this downhill ride, and it was picking up speed. And it all came to a head in August of 2017. My wife found everything. She had found every text message, every email. She had found all the saved pictures on my phone, found everything, and she left. She took my daughter, and she left.
Can I pause just for a second? I think one thing that we need to address that I don't think we've ever addressed is the fact that the problem, one of the main problems, not just the pornography, but the problem was communication as well. It's okay, so your wife's not doing these things that you're seeing in these videos and have been all of your life, okay? But God has created sex for married couples, and there's, other than bringing someone else into the relationship, as long as both of you agree to it and both of you are happy to do it, there is almost nothing off limits.
Right.
God created sex to be a beautiful, pleasurable thing between married people. And so I would like to stop. That's the reason I stop right here is I would like to say to you married people, if either one of you are feeling like you're not being sexually satisfied in any kind of way, talk to your partner and ask them, say, hey, this is something I would like to try, or this is something I enjoy. Can we do it more? Or whatever the case may be, but you have to have communication to have a healthy sex life. Because one person may like this and the other person may not, and you're making them unhappy because you're not doing what they want, or vice versa, or anything like that.
Also,
now I'm not saying,
but we also got to keep this in the realm of, God designed this to be I hate to say the word holy thing, but it is a thing that God designed for us, and we don't want to pervert that with some things that we saw in some pornography and try to introduce that into a holy marriage between a man and a wife.
Look, let me share something. Okay, so as I stated before, so I've been single for about 6 years. Okay, the last relationship that I was in was a 12-year relationship, and it was not the drugs that destroyed that relationship. It was pornography, and it was chat rooms. Now, I was not physically cheating on her, and I never once did. But but it was in secret, and like there were several times over those 12 years that I got caught with the pornography in my phone and things like that. And she let that go twice before. And, and the things with the drugs came up, a lot too. That was hidden at the time too. But she stuck through me through all of that. Right. But then when that third time though, it was, I'm sick of you cheating on me, and at that time I did not realize that was even cheating. But it most certainly is, because it says in the Bible, if you look upon a woman lustfully, then that is committing adultery. And I did not realize that at the time. I really hurt that woman. I could imagine it destroyed her confidence, because I didn't come to her about it. It was like that. So for me, it wasn't the drugs and the alcohol that destroyed that relationship. It was literally the porn addiction.
Yeah, and that's what it'll do. It'll.
I totally agree what you just said. Like, we shouldn't be bringing unholy stuff that you found on the internet into the holy sanctum of your intimacy with your wife. However, I'm just gonna say, I've been reading Songs of Songs, and there ain't much in this book of the Bible that ain't dirty.
Well. So that man had 400 wives.
Okay, I'm just saying. So he's experienced it all. Yeah. I'm just saying communication is key. I'm not saying like
he had a wife for every kink.
Exactly. So communication is key. Yes, you don't need to be looking at perverted stuff. Period. God does not like that. Your eyes are only meant to see the person that God meant for you naked. And have relations with that person. But I'm just saying, if more married people would communicate and stop making sex such a non-conversation. I don't want to bring this up because where did you learn that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, also, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm sorry. Can we try this? And if she says no, okay, at least we talked about it.
Well, see, and another thing now, and this got completely missed. Part of the thing was we weren't having that intimacy at all, because I was like, well, my wife don't love me because she doesn't, we're not doing this.
Right.
I was so self-absorbed that I couldn't even see that my wife was going through postpartum depression. Of course she didn't have time for me. She's working a full-time job. She's a new mom. She's going through postpartum depression. That's the last thing she's thinking about. But I'm so self-absorbed that I'm like, poor, pitiful Josh.
That's right. I'm not getting none, so I got to find it.
No.
I get it.
So, anyway, so she left, took the kid, they were gone, and me and God just had a wrestling match because I had to come to face with some stuff.
Did you walk away with a limp?
No, I did not. Right. But I walked away a new man.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, because Jacob got in a wrestling match with God. And
I was a new man, but I didn't have a limp.
Okay.
But God did a Psalm 40 in my life. He pulled me out of that pit. He pulled me out of that mire, and he put my feet on the solid ground. And
amen. Tell me about that. Like, how did literally, like, take me to that moment when you knew that God literally pulled you out of that pit and that mire, and that was
I didn't know that moment for a while, but during that time, my thing, I dealt with so much shame, for just the stuff that I did. Horrible shame. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I couldn't do it. I hated who I was. And because of that, I was like, God cannot forgive me. And that's kind of where the podcast was born from, was that. That shame. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had a moment at CR, because I got back involved with CR, got highly involved with CR. And I heard that scripture about how he'll make you white as snow. He'll wash the take that crimson or I'm butchering that all up. But anyway, he'll clean you and make you as white as snow. And that really hit home for me. And I really started kind of understanding this strange thing of grace, because I was raised Pentecostal. I'd always assumed that God was sitting on his throne with a lightning bolt ready to pop me for just a little mistake. So I had this hard time of understanding grace. And so when I finally did understand, hey, yes, God does love me, I finally was able to start kind of readjusting my thinking.
Mhm.
But the main healing didn't come until I was able to surrender, because I have a problem with pride. I want to do it my way. I want control. And God can't do anything with that until I surrender. I've got to get to a place where I can do step number 3, because it's my will that led me to my seat in recovery, and it's my will that will continue to lead to a relapse. I've got to wake up every day, and I got to live inside the will of God, and that's how I continue to make this continued sobriety. I've got to be able to comfortably every day, like, God, I surrender to your will. I'm here to do what you want me to do. And that's how I was able to get myself out of that, is to get into that kind of posture, to just surrender it all. Because until that point, I was not ready to surrender.
Yeah.
I loved my sin. I
heard
loved
something
I loved
not
my
too long
addiction.
ago, and just you saying that kind of really clicked it, was the fact that every person in addiction has a heart for God, because we've already surrendered to one thing. So we're ready to surrender to God.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, we've given it all up for one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now we can face it and give it up for God.
The right thing.
Very well said.
Right thing. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we came out of that. And that I started late. Well, no, not really late. Early 2018. I started really getting this from God about a podcast. I didn't know what a podcast was.
You and I have the same story on this.
I
It's
mean,
crazy.
I
I still don't know what a podcast is.
We know.
aren't you starting your
we're
own?
aware.
Aren't you
You
starting
think
your
it's a
own?
T-shirt?
Yeah, I
say.
thought you
It's
said
a-
you were starting your
No,
own.
mine's going to be a talk show.
I'm dead.
But I grew up in the sticks of Wayne County. I didn't know what a podcast was, and I was like, I dismissed it quickly. I was like, I miss hearing God. This ain't from God. This is whatever, and it just kept coming up, and lo and behold, I had a friend that was in a CR at another group in here in Mississippi, and they had a guy from the Soberholic podcast come visit their group to share his testimony. And I was like, Soberholic podcast. And I started listening to them. They were over in Birmingham, and two great guys, Roger and David, and I reached out to them. I actually shared my story on their podcast, and I really got this real in-depth look of what a podcast is, what it does, what it can be. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And so I went and I bought a $20 microphone off of Amazon, and I recorded the first episode of Unashamed Recovery in 2018. I recorded it in my closet in my bedroom.
I bet it was the best episode you've ever done.
It was not. It was straight garbage, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It was. I had this.
Still up?
Do what?
Is it still up?
Yeah, it's the very first episode.
I've got to go back and hear it.
It's
Me
the
too.
it's the introduction, but it was not what I had envisioned.
Right.
It was not what I was wanting to do. I felt like it was lacking. It was not perfect. It was not fit for anybody else to hear. It was so disorganized that it was horrible. And I sat on that episode for a long time.
That sounded like he was describing my dumpster fire of a life.
I shelved that episode, and it just stayed on my phone
Same.
for a year. And one day in 2019, I heard it. I don't say this lightly, because there's very few times in my life where I can say that I've heard God speak to me. Because most time it's a feeling that I get. But this was, like when I got that call to ministry,
Yeah.
that was a feeling. It wasn't an audible voice. But this was like somebody was speaking to me. It said, it's time to publish that episode.
When God speaks something to me, it's never up here. It's always in my heart.
Well,
Does
see,
that make sense?
And that's how it's been with me. But there's been a few times where it's been an audible,
Yeah.
and that wasn't all. It was like, it's time to publish. And I was like, where did that come from?
Right.
So I did it. I was like, all right. And I published it. And It got 8 plays.
Oh, you were a superstar.
Well, and when I did this,
Seven of them were him.
No, 2. I'm sure one of them was Annabelle. One of them was Drew. One was his mother.
So what's funny about all that is when I first started with the podcast, when God was laying this out to me, my one hope, I was like, I want to reach one person.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was kind of my mission statement. I was like, if we reach one person, I'm happy. And so with 8, I was like, yes, reached 8. But so then the next episode was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And then the next episode was easier. And then it just became, okay, I can do this.
Who was your first co-host?
Nope. Well, I didn't have a co-host. I ran the whole first season by myself.
Okay.
The whole first season, it was just me. I had some guests come on.
Who was your first guest?
My first guest, which episode was that? It would have been Drew.
Ah.
Drew was my first guest
Yep,
that came on,
Okay.
and he shared about relapse.
I'm going to have to go back and check that out.
That was, what, 4?
Episode 4
Episode
Season 2?
of season 1.
Season 1.
Yep.
Okay.
And
It's a good memory. It was on January 6th of 2020.
so there he is. How about that?
I'm not kidding. I really was looking. So it's good memory that you remembered it was episode 4.
Yeah.
So we did that whole first season like that, and I mean, it was some horrible
I
audio.
think mine was the first one outside of the house, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Me and him recorded at our church, but I just winged it, man. I didn't know what I was doing,
That's exactly what I do.
and
I just show up. Danny's like on me like, what's the topic? What's
Well,
the
see,
description?
and I didn't-
don't
God's always going
know.
to give you the word.
and see, and
I
I
know.
didn't.
That's just what it is.
I didn't have Daniel. I didn't have somebody like, well, you need to do this. No, it was
Trial and error.
I made a lot of mistakes. But
Made?
Do you remember
We're
what you
still making mistakes.
listen? Do you
Every
remember the
episode.
conversation we had outside?
How much
in
editing
Meridian
I have to do?
after we
I'm
did
so glad you weren't around for season 2.
after Palmer botched our episode. You
You
remember
did,
the conversation we had outside? You're like, I was talking to you about it, and you were like, listen, John, just do it, man.
Yeah.
He said, you told me I started with a $20 mic from Amazon and a little crappy mixer, man. Just do it. Just jump out of faith and do it.
Yeah.
And
because
Well, a lot of times we
I would've-
mishandle blessings like that or our callings because of self-doubt.
yeah.
You know, we worried about what the next person's going to say or worry about what we can't do instead of worrying about what God can do.
Yeah.
Well, and if I would have never pulled that trigger and published that first episode, that thing would still be sitting on my phone out, and we wouldn't be here today.
I'd like to share something that I need to give somebody some credit for. And I thought, God gets all the glory, of course, and it's no.
This fool
It's not
here.
Palmer. All right, so I was in pre-planning. Listen, I'd been talking about it for months, and I was in pre-planning, for the Black Sheep for several months. Literally, intentionally putting it off. I was all talk at this point, right? So, but what literally drove me out of the boat in faith was Clay Edwards. And let me tell you how that happened. Had he not said what he said that day, I would probably still be intentionally putting it off out of fear. And here's what happened. I was on his morning talk radio show to promote Night of Hope and or the Recovery Fest actually. Yeah. And out of the blue, he's the one that brought it up. He said, and this is pretty much what he said was, and here we have John Gallagher. He's about to release his own podcast. What's the name of that podcast? And I said, I froze. Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast.
Brother Phoenix podcast.
And like I knew in that moment that God prompted him to do that to push me out of the boat, or I would have never done it.
Yeah. Right. So I had a cool name like Brother Phoenix.
Brother Phoenix.
I mean, haters gonna hate.
You're in my phone as Palmer Vox. You have a cool name, all right?
You do have a cool name.
That's what it was on
He's in my
Facebook.
phone is Sister Hazel.
Sister, what?
I'm kidding. I was a joke. That was a joke.
Sister.
That was a joke.
I mean, if you're gonna give him a band name, give it something cool like Journey or no.
Journey. That's it.
I mean, or
that's it. Oh, Steve Perry there.
Yeah, we'll see. Look, man. But anyway, so I mean, the podcast is awesome, man. Let me another. I would like to give y'all some credit too, man, as far as that, because several months before then, when it was It was. I mean, it's been your guidance. This past few months, I've called you a few times, and you've been a great mentor for me, and I can't thank you enough, man, because I know it's just like another person that God strategically put in my life to guide me through all this. And anytime I've ever had a question, I've called you and you've answered the phones, and I appreciate that,
man. And that's that's what I'm here for. I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
There's two kind of people in this world. You have the one type of I struggled, so you have to.
No.
And then you get the other kind of cop that's like, I struggled, so you don't have to.
No.
And I got to give,
And if I can help somebody on this process through the trial and error that I went through, I'm going to do it.
And I also want to give, Micah Mayfield and Palmer, a lot of credit also, because there was a bunch of times I called Micah and talked to him, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? He's like some great wise counsel for me. He's like, just like you said, look, John, if you're going to do it, just do it. I mean, if not now, when, And Palmer, if I don't know how it would have worked out had Palmer not sat in for those first few episodes,
You can't thank Palmer because it's going to go to his head. He's not going to be able to walk out the door.
Well, I feel so bad for tearing him down at the beginning because there's a lot of stuff that the viewers didn't hear, before we started the live.
They beat me to death before we went
live.
Well,
when you go around spreading these lies and rumors that I get fired from Unashamed and I got unceremoniously, and I mean, I'm talking about
it was ceremoniously.
Listen, I'm talking. Listen, in front of 350 people the other night at the Point, he's going to get up there and introduce me with this great, this whole big thing, and then after I was unceremoniously fired, here's John Gallagher. So I'm like,
so
wow.
You backhanded him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, wow, thanks for that. So
What'd you get for replacing me
I was literally
backhanded comment.
Look, I was literally on the side of the stage about to have a panic attack because I've never spoken in front of this many people before in my
Yes,
life.
you have. You're just usually in a room.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, they're not
on a podcast
looking at me.
Well, hey.
So, but like, so I mean, literally. But as soon as he did that, it relaxed me, though. You don't understand. Like it really because we have that,
That's
that
what
chemistry,
I'm here for.
and so like that gave me an icebreaker, to throw a shot back at him, and then everything went smooth after that. And then my co-host, she prayed over me. Right, Stacy prayed over me because she looked at me and she told me later, she's like, "You look like you were about to throw up. Let me pray for you." And she did, and the anxiety started to go. It really went away at that point, and then he did that, and then the anxiety was. I mean, I was relaxed at that point.
Hey,
and also, I'll tell you what God did. It seemed like God brightened up the lights at the top, so I couldn't see anybody out there. And that's where I think it really bothers me is like when I can see the eyes on me, So, but it's all God, man.
I have another God story for you. It's with the podcast. So, season 2 of our podcast. Not at all. Oh. Season 2 of the podcast. I brought Drew on as co-host.
Hey, everybody!
And
Drew, are you? I didn't know Drew was here.
I'm here.
Hey, Drew.
I'm here.
He needed to add some ethnicity.
Stop it right now.
Well, I got.
Stop it right now.
Usually, I have a female, so it's my, I love you so much. Drew.
From the beginning, you've always had
Love you
somebody
too,
helping you with boobs.
Will you be my token black dude?
Sure.
Okay.
You can't because he's Unashamed Recovery's token black guy.
But I can borrow him.
Spread it around.
I mean, I got my token fat guy.
That's right.
So
come here, give me a hug.
So I brought him on for season 2. In our very first episode, we had a lady come on and share her story.
Shauna Wade.
And her story launched Unashamed Recovery to a whole new level.
It put us on a different platform for sure.
Yeah.
Because
what episode number is that?
It's 13.
Episode number 13.
Definitely.
Unlucky 13 became Lucky 13.
And
well, I mean, there was a lot before that I think we were trying to get in order. Yeah. We just couldn't have. And then
we're
Shauna
still trying to get.
Yeah, we're still trying to get a lot in order. But when Shauna came on, that was a whole different ball game.
But her episode was heard around the world.
Really?
Literally. And man, I talk about this and I get goosebumps about it. We found out last year, maybe 2 years ago, we found out that her episode was heard in Beirut.
Really?
And it was a female village over there that was I think 80% women. And they were all addicted to opiates. Every single one of them. they didn't know any other kind of life. That was it. Somehow or another, they heard her episode, and they got a recovery group started over there, and I think 37% of them were in recovery and sober now.
I've got one thing to say about that. God be doing stuff, man.
God be doing stuff.
God be doing stuff.
Wasn't it at one point
Put
that
that on
we
the
actually
t-shirt?
had some recovery groups in Mississippi using materials? I know they used the relapse episode.
Yeah, some of the life recovery groups were using some material from season 1 as teaching material, and but it's just, man, I look back through the podcast and it's like I can see God all through it.
I would love to see Black Sheep get into the prisons, man. On a podcast platform, for them to be able to listen and Unashamed, because they do have the tablets now, and I think that they are able to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's several prisons in Rankin, and I think Rankin even has the tablets where they can. I think they can watch some TED Talks. They can watch certain things. It's only it has to be approved to get through. I'd love to see our podcast get into the prison system, man. Right. That would be so cool. Awesome. That would be huge. I think we need to talk to people about that. I think because I know, look, Rare of Breed, who came to and performed at the Grace Church a few months back, and DJ Wynn was just here this week for our event, and Rare of Breed did a podcast that is that they're able to watch in over 5,000 different prisons across the country. So I was kind of in Wynn's ear about that. I was like, well, how did y'all do that? And it's like, I guess it's the particular app that they use. They upload the episode. They uploaded that one episode to it or something like that. So
we need to find out what app that is.
Yeah, we need to find out.
That's good stuff. God be doing stuff.
All the time.
Be doing stuff.
All the time. Put that on a t-shirt. But anyway, so where were we?
We've been using it all day.
All day.
Truly, we have been. But
it's okay, Paul.
Starting my own.
All right, so what's the future of Unashamed? Where are you at with that?
Well, it's just going down to Drew and Josh again.
As we speak, Elon Musk has been in talk with us about buying the podcast.
Yep.
He
really.
All right, True. Let's talk about something. True. I'm just curious. Have you looked at I just want to know because I want I know how he is about his ego. I like mine being stroked every now and then. But how many downloads did mine get? I'm just curious.
Total or so
at
total
least 3.
3,
yeah, at least 3.
4.
I think I just had to put together a media kit for a sponsor, and I think we're right at 89,000.
Really?
On your on his episode?
That's awesome.
No, just all together.
Yeah. That's awesome. Y'all are doing fantastic numbers, dude. So
I think back at Christmas, I think we were reaching we reached around 315,000 people.
That is incredible,
in
dude.
30 days.
That is massive numbers, man.
Yeah, man, it was.
That is massive numbers. That's incredible. So you and I were talking the other day about you doing an offshoot type podcast.
Well, that's so far in the works, and I don't even want to. I don't even want to bring that up to get people's hope.
Another podcast? You didn't tell me nothing about it?
It's a passion project that I'm.
You're gonna have to edit this out because I didn't know he didn't want to not talk about that.
Well, no, it's all right. It's good.
It's my first time hearing it.
Yes.
So he was probably saving that for a big surprise for y'all, man.
No, I doubt it.
Josh, I'm so sorry, man.
It's all good, but it's a.
Glad I know now.
I'm looking at doing a podcast where we do 4 days a week in Scripture.
Well, you can just don't even depend on that one for that because he's too busy for us.
But
you talking about me?
Yeah.
But
I'm about to be too busy. Unfiltered.
I mean,
with Palmer.
you are literally over there scrolling through your phone throughout the whole episode doing something else.
One, I was looking at old episodes of Unashamed.
You're doing an episode of right now.
I
You're
know,
like
but
you're
I was looking at because I was trying to
you're
see
a
when it
part of
started.
one. You're watching and other.
And now
you're literally over there
I'm
listening to another podcast, recording a podcast.
And now I'm looking at the numbers for Unashamed.
Okay.
On Red Circle.
Wow.
Oh,
this guy.
And I pulled up the Bible to talk about songs of songs.
So you're that bored with what's going on around you right now that you're going to read the Bible?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Palmer.
I can't read the Bible.
This is hilarious.
I'm excited.
talking about
I'm excited about the whole future of the platform. The podcast platform as far as ministry and addiction and recovery goes, man. Because I don't think there's. I mean, this is just wonderful, man. What God's working and through you and through Drew and through
it's all
Palmer.
God. All God.
It is all God. Truly is that. Actually, before we, is there anything else, Josh?
No, I'm good, brother.
Good.
I think I shared everything that God wanted me to share today.
So I was on my way to work, which this is my job, and I listened to the Bible on my way to work, and Psalm 116.
Touch you twice.
Yeah, Psalm 116 came up, and I was listening to it. And I was like, I'm gonna read this for somebody that's listening needs to hear this psalm. It's Psalm 116. And I found myself, as I was listening to it, it was like, this is exactly where I was. And right at the end of my addiction and coming out of it and throughout it. And I know that somebody is going to need to hear this. I love the Lord because he hears my voice and my prayer for mercy, because he bends down to listen. I will pray as long as I have breath. Death wrapped its ropes around me. The terrors of the grave overtook me. I saw only trouble and sorrow. Then I called on the name of the Lord. Please, Lord, save me. How kind the Lord is, how good he is, so merciful, this God of ours. The Lord protects those of childlike faith. I was facing death, and he saved me. Let my soul be at rest again, for the Lord has been good to me. He has saved me from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling, and so I walk in the Lord's presence as I live here on earth. I believed in you, so I said, I am deeply troubled, Lord. In my anxiety, I cried out to you. These people are all liars. What can I offer the Lord for all he has done for me? I will lift up the cup of salvation and praise the Lord's name for saving me. I will keep my promises to the Lord in the presence of all his people. The Lord cares deeply when his loved ones die. O Lord, I am your servant. Yes, I am your servant, born into your household. You have freed me from my chains. I will offer you a sacrifice of thanksgiving and call on the name of the Lord. I will fulfill my vows to the Lord in the presence of all his people, in the house of the Lord, in the heart of Jerusalem. Praise the Lord.
That could be your whole story there, Josh.
Man.
Imagine
For
that.
real. That's awesome.
And that was Psalm what?
116.
Man, that's good stuff.
It's almost your testimony. I mean, for real.
Yeah.
Drew.
Yep.
So, before we wrap up, let's obviously you and Annabeth, Josh, you and Annabeth are doing great now.
Oh, can we? Yes, I forgot about that. So as an update, yes, my wife came back home.
Oh, wow. Man,
We straight forgot all that.
We're going to have to edit out my... we'll just move
I
it.
had said that to begin with.
Okay.
So
All right.
let's
So
listen
the
to
show
it.
is not over. Stay tuned. We're not going anywhere.
So my wife came
Wow.
back home.
Dropped the ball on
In
that one, didn't I?
2018, we had our second daughter, and then last year we had our third daughter.
Next year they're going for a boy.
Negative.
Amen.
We are done. But yes, and I want to encourage people. Infidelity or marriage after infidelity is possible. That adultery is not the final say so in a marriage, but now that's not
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and that's not to say now change had to occur.
Yeah.
I would encourage anybody, if you're going through a situation like what me and my wife did, if the other person that did the adultery did not change, it's going to happen again. But if there is significant change, a second chance is okay. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I would say that not only a second chance is okay, but it's also warranted when there's proof that we're working towards being a better person,
Proven
a better
reconciliation.
husband.
Yeah,
and in that situation, or better wife, however.
Me and my wife are in a better marriage today than we have ever been in our entire. We're about to do 12 years in October. Our marriage is better today than it's ever been, but it didn't get there overnight. Like, I had to work my recovery, and my wife had to be open to see that work and to see that change. I mean, it was a lot. We had to go through marriage counseling. We had to go through therapy. My wife went and she got into a step study at CR, and she did the inventory, and she learned her part. She learned my part. I mean, it was a lot of work. It didn't happen overnight, by no means.
I know.
So I did want to say that.
Can I throw out, like, I'd like to have her on Unashamed Recovery. I still would love to hear
her side.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know.
Good luck.
She kind of like my wife. She likes to be in the background.
Talk. She
doesn't want anybody. But man,
up until last year, I couldn't even get her to say, "Hey."
Dude, her testimony is just as powerful, if not more.
Most definitely.
Because she stayed.
Yep.
Then decided, no, I'm done, and then came back. I mean, she's so obedient to God's voice of, this is the man I gave you. Let me fix him. And just, man.
So she told me something while she was going through her steps that really stuck out to me. And she said that the whole time she was mad and wanted revenge and wanted me to hurt. And she went through her inventory. And when she was going through that, she said that God really, really let it be known He is hurting.
Right.
This is why we're here.
Right.
And
yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's deep, man.
that changed everything.
Yeah.
Because for the whole time she blamed herself.
Right.
She thought,
What did I do wrong?
yeah. And for the first time she was able to say, okay, this isn't mine.
Right.
This is him.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
I remember-
She should
I
have
remember
definitely had
Jenny-
the thought of, I didn't do this.
Yeah, Jenny said the same thing to me, years ago. But before she was able to forgive me, when she left, and she was like, what did I do wrong? What was I doing wrong? What how do you answer that?
9 times out of 10, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's the person that's doing it.
I would try to explain it. It was nothing to do with you. It was every bit to do with me. And
Well, that's awesome.
Her,
I'm glad
her
we
attitude
came
was
back to that.
It's like, how was I not good enough for you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, later on, it was later that I accepted the fact that, yes, I was cheating. It was adultery, but it wasn't until I got in the faith about that, because when it was told to me in the Bible that it was adultery,
right.
So, and my heart hurt for her when I came to that realization, and my heart got broken all over again over the whole situation, because now I don't have her in that capacity. She's my best friend now. She's family, but, and God literally, it's amazing that the woman's even speaking to me what I put her through. But, like, literally, I mean, if I can ever get her on an episode, and I've been in her ear about it, about sharing her side of the story of all Jenny, like, it's just like you said, it's powerful. And, like, she wasn't even going to ever have anything to do with me or speak to me again until the Holy Spirit literally woke her up in the middle of the night and told her, yes, you are. And she was like, no, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. And it wasn't long after that she fell obedient to the Lord's voice, and now she's one of the most important people and always will be in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad we came back to that, because I don't think we've ever told that part ever. And one, to see your emotion is amazing, because it's absolutely real. But two, I think a lot of people need to hear that 9 times out of 10, it's not in this case, it's not the wife's fault the man's cheating, or that he has an addiction to sex or porn. She may be blamed, we may blame, our partner or whatever, but it's not their fault. Yeah. And also that, there's nothing you could have done. I mean, he was hurting. That's the reason he's going through this. That is a huge takeaway.
And I'd like to read this comment from Miss Kosha McCrocklin, very close friend of mine. She said, praise God. God will allow what you can survive and what he can ultimately redeem. He will transform us in love and show us his ways. And that is very true.
Amen, Kosha.
Yeah.
So, before I missed the opportunity, I wanted to come over to Drew and just ask, like, Drew, how did you get into this? I mean, did y'all meet the podcast? So like, obviously you did episode 4 with
Right.
Josh, but like, how was it that Josh was like, "Hey, I know I've done 6 more episodes without you, but I think this next season, I need a token black man."
Well,
Is that what he said?
no,
Were
he
those
didn't-
his words?
No, that's definitely wasn't his words. I think it was more along the lines of both of us were in the same CR group. We had both been talking about, recovery topics, and in the CR group that we're in, I'm very vocal. I was.
You haven't been this episode.
Well, because I'm listening to
I
Josh's
know, but
story.
I was thinking
I
joke.
mean,
He's not vocal in any of the episodes.
I am vocal.
But when
in
he
the
does
episodes.
open his mouth and speak,
Oh, that's editing. My
He
bad.
is vocal,
when-
but Palmer edits him out.
when he finally does open his mouth and talk,
That
man, the
part.
wisdom that comes out of his mouth is like so much better than what comes out of yours.
Well, I mean, I've always been taught, in silence, you hear first, then you respond. I mean, I could just throw words out there and it not mean much, but I feel like to really hit home sometimes, you just bring what you know as far as wisdom. I've walked this path 6 years now, but I mean, I was an addict for over 20.
Yeah.
And I think that was the issue when Josh was doing this podcast on season 1 was the fact that he knew from a sex addiction aspect, but there was never really any substance or alcohol abuse, in that. And so when I gave my relapse story, it was pretty, I think we had a lot of people end up kind of looking into that, and they started downloading it. And then that's when it really took off. And then so I think he did, 2 more episodes, and he was just like, hey,
Well, we had done cause you were on episode 4, and we did all the way up to episode 12 in that first season.
okay.
But me and you had been talking through that time.
Yeah, because I was like, hey, that was kind of fun. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, it was, because just to relay information for me, that's how I am. I'm always full of either useless information or very useful information. It's one or the other. It's no in between. And so with the recovery, I try my best to lay out all the information that I've ever gathered, all the information that has affected my heart to change it, to put that out there for somebody else and hopefully save somebody else's life.
Yeah.
I don't think the podcast would be what it is without, a you.
Right.
And what I mean is, even if it wasn't wasn't you per se, it needed to have the
Somebody with a substance background.
abuse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, there's probably a lot more people out there like me and you that addicted to sex and porn, but they don't talk. They're not going to talk about it. And so, to be more relatable,
Right.
we've had 98% substance abuse people.
Right.
And
then you've had people who've been to prison. I've walked that path as well.
right.
And after being an addict for so long and then going to prison and having my life stripped down to, nothing. I think we were talking about earlier how we were both homeless and eating out of trash cans and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's extreme.
Right.
That's the extreme.
I was
aspect of
pulling up
what
puddle
can happen.
water and shooting it.
Yeah. I can relate.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate. But I mean, it's just one of those things, like, I've always wanted to do my best to help somebody else recover.
That's the goal.
Throughout the years, I've been able to help at least, 50 or 60 people find a rehab or they get on their recovery journey some kind of way. I mean, that's not for me to brag, because it's not me that's doing it. That's God. That's all God. Anything that I have right now is
just
because
a
of
vessel.
God. Yeah.
Just being an obedient vessel.
Right. Well, I try my best. Anger sometimes gets the best of that, but that's one of those things I'm still working on. And that's just one of those things that I'm trying to surrender to God completely. But you want to grab that thing back and throw it like a boomerang every now and then.
That's why I love my team so much that God has put together, man, because every single one of us has struggled with addiction in some way, shape, or form, man. It's like God put us all together because we've been there. Like we know. And
that relapse story, that was what would, I think it was U-Turn, you said, that used it.
U-Turn was using denial.
Denial, got you. But, the relapse story for me,
talking about that river in Egypt.
That was what really jump-started my recovery. Y'all are so silly.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt.
Both of y'all fired. Firing both of y'all. I'm
You
firing
can't
you
fire
from
me
your
from
own
my
podcast
podcast.
right now.
You can't
But,
fire me. I've been
um,
fired.
But after, trying to what was the word you used? Unalive myself, and then walking that path.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I tried to unalive myself. Jesus made it, boy. But it was just one of those things, like, how can I give what I have, because it was so good and it's still so good. How can I give this away to somebody else?
Right.
And then he gave me a way to do it in masse to everybody else. So I just, yeah.
Another comment I'd like to read from Klausma is recovering is very, very much the same from pain, trauma, drugs, and porn. Amen. I'm going to tell y'all something, Drew.
She said very useful.
Very
Very
useful.
useless.
Very-
I can
yeah.
definitely relate.
I can definitely relate.
Very useful or useless. I relate.
So
Mine's very
I'm going to tell y'all, look, I've listened to several
I try to be useful.
Unashamed Recovery podcasts, and I'm going to tell y'all, my favorite one so far, guess, it's not Palmer's, no. It was Amber's, man.
Yeah.
That was a good
Amber was a powerful, what number was that?
49.
49.
I don't know. I don't have my phone pulled
listen.
up because you yelled at me for having
All
my
right,
phone pulled up.
so I'm gonna tell y'all the two best episodes. Go to Unashamed Recovery Podcast,
He's
and
gonna
the
say he is
two
watching.
y'all need to focus on are 42 and 49. Those are the
my
two best episodes
God.
they have ever done.
Well, wait till you get to number 59. That's about to hit.
Yeah.
59's
Or
good.
no,
60.
60.
60 was
60.
good.
Oh,
60.
actually, 59 and 60 both,
Well,
man.
59 is good, but 60 with Danny Ivy.
Yes.
So for those of you or in this room, Palmer, that think I don't really offer much, I am going to do a topic episode on be for real. It's just one of those things that's, so when God speaks to me sometimes, I'm telling you right now, it's like a song lyric, and it just keeps replaying over and over and over until I get the message. So be for real is just something that God's really been putting on my heart here lately, and it's just about these things that we pray for, these things that we ask God for, the blessings that we get from God, that we often mishandle these things. It's because we don't keep it real with ourselves about how to do it. There's been blessing after blessing that I've received that I don't go back to God for. I just continuously mishandle it.
Yeah.
And then I get stressed out, and then I get angry, and then I get frustrated, and then I find myself feeling desperate again. It's just one of those things. But why am I feeling this way? It's because I keep mishandling the things that I'm praying for and these gifts and blessings. Yeah. So it's just, we're gonna kind of dig into that. And you said that's gonna probably be the next one.
Probably the next one.
Which episodes did you say were the best? 42 and 45?
42 and 49. Make no mistake, 42 and 40. Episode 42 is called The Black Sheep.
Well, hey, I was going to say, episode 43, right? That's pretty good, too. Confrontation of the Spirits.
43 is
Oh
good.
yeah, that one.
John Layton was really good.
That
Voice
45
of
episode was
John
great.
Layton was really
fun.
good. Tank was really good.
Oh, yeah,
Tank was really good. I mean, y'all. I mean, look, go check it. Listen, real quick, everybody's listening. Just go check out any episode of Unashamed Recovery.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Start at episode 1.
But I'm telling you, look,
No.
and for my listeners, and I'm
No, not.
look,
Some of them sound like we're in a hallway.
Well, I have not
just
had.
Be prepared.
I have not had an opportunity on the Black Sheep to do my own testimony. I'm sure. I mean, I've shared stories and bits and pieces here, but the Unashamed episode is out there. Unashamed Recovery. It's episode 42. It's called The Black Sheep. If y'all want to go get a deeper depth of my testimony, I'll eventually do it on here. I'm just I'm waiting for God to tell me to do it, if that makes sense, right? So also Palmer's got an episode on Unashamed that everybody should check out, and all BS aside, it is a phenomenal episode because, and I like it so much because the title is just so groovy. It's Sex, Drugs, and
Breaking the
Rock and
Cycle
Roll
is the
Without the
name.
Drugs. Now, how do you live a lifestyle of the rock star lifestyle and not get involved in drugs? Well, ask Palmer. He'll tell you all about it in episode number 45.
Start
all about the
listening. Start listening at episode 36, because everything before then, we can't promise audio quality.
Gotcha.
We can't promise audio.
Also,
quality
I'd
now.
like to throw a big shout out to Aubrey Pridgeon, Scott Walters, Chastity Walters, and Brandy Pridgeon for being the first ever sponsors of the Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast. Awesome. They have sponsored. They gave us some sponsorship yesterday, and if you would like to contact them at All Things New, you can go to their website, and if you need a phone number to get in touch with Aubrey and anything, I'll have it. I'll have the link posted on my website, which is under construction right now. Should be done by Monday, I'm thinking. So we'll have our website up and running by Monday or sometime next week. Also, there will be a link for Audio Alchemy Productions for my boy Danny over there, Danny Anderson. And there will be other links to other ministries, as we get them. So we're also going to have a link for Unashamed Recovery that will go straight to their website where you can catch their episodes. Sound good?
Yep, sounds great, man.
Man,
we
look
forward to it.
It has been also there will be a link to Giving Grace Music on the main web page of the Black Sheep Recovery Warfare webpage, so that if you want to book them, if you want to listen to their music,
podcast hell that I'm in,
and if you would like to donate to any of these ministries, there will be links for that too. But if you have not heard Giving Grace Music, please check them out. They are amazing. I know I give Palmer a lot of grief, but he is my brother, and I love him, and he is so very talented, and I'm so proud of the way that the Lord is using him on that stage. If y'all would have seen him the other night at this event, banging his head with that rat tail, flinging back and forth. I mean, talking about praising God. I was in awe of it. I was in awe of it.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you can literally watch the whole event on, was it on your YouTube, Danny? On Danny's YouTube channel, which is...
On your YouTube, too.
Audio Alchemy YouTube channel. And it's on my YouTube also.
Yeah, we live streamed to Black Sheep.
Did we?
Well, we live streamed Faith. Wait, did we do Facebook?
Yeah.
Coach just said that's a mohawk. It is a mohawk.
Coach.
I called it a rat tail. I thought
I'm going to call you in a minute, Coach. I need a haircut.
Listen, Coach, I don't know if you noticed, but I shaved all the stuff off.
We're going to need you to fix him
I need you to
somehow.
fix this, please.
We're going to do a whole episode on why you thought it was a good idea to shave your face. After
It was a great idea.
30
I've
years.
got nothing but compliments on it, and I was told that I look 15 years younger, so it stays off. I might grow me something like what Josh got or like Jonah got over there, but we'll see. So with all that being said, then thank you for joining us for this wonderful edition of Black Sheep Recovery Warfare Podcast. And hit my music.
And I'll see you in the next couple months.
You're fine.